Today we have dealt the Sinaloa drug cartel a crushing blow in one of the largest joint international law enforcement efforts ever undertaken.
In late February, Leonhardt and Attorney General Eric Holder announced the completion of a 21-month-long drug sting, codenamed Accelerator. Officials nabbed more than 700 people in both Mexico and the U.S., seized $59 million in cash, and swept up a stunning array of narcotics and weapons. All told, it was an impressive victory for the U.S. and Mexico governments. Yet the haul represented but a blip in the $39 billion a year Mexican drug trade. And as authorities beef up pressure on the gangs, Mexico is exploding with violence. In the past 2 years, more than 7,000 people have been killed as a result of the drug wars. All of a sudden, the Obama administration finds itself with an unexpected challenge on its southern border.
But quite interestingly, right after Obama won the election, suddenly officials in the outgoing administration, the Bush administration, started talking about Mexico as a very serious national security threat because of the violence along the border.
In his cover story in this week's CQ Weekly, Broder reports that in recent months, the warnings about Mexico from top U.S. officials have been increasing.
A report came out by the Joint Forces Command of the Pentagon in which it cited Pakistan and Mexico as the two countries most likely to fall into failed state status.
While the Mexican government rejects such assessments as overly alarmist, there is growing recognition in both countries that Mexico cannot defeat the drug barons by itself.
I think Mexico needs help, like Colombia needed help 10 years ago. I think there is a parallel there.
Shifter has been studying and working in Latin America for 3 decades. He says that Mexico's problems are part of a regional drug epidemic, and that new solutions are going to require a new approach.
The fact is that the U.S. drug policy has been on automatic pilot for decades. There's been a drug war, a lot of resources spent over a long period of time. The results, I think, have not been very satisfactory, not only in Mexico, but elsewhere.
As violence spills into the U.S. in the form of home invasions and kidnappings, some suggest Mexico's problems are a homeland security threat that can only be addressed by beefing up the border. Former California Congressman Duncan Hunter, one of the political architects behind the construction of San Diego's border fence in the 90s, sees even more fencing and surveillance as the answer. But not everyone agrees.
We're not talking about some poor guy or some poor gal trying to get over here to pick crops in Yuma or to wash dishes in some hotel. We're talking about sophisticated, organized crime.
Grijalva, whose expansive district spans much of the sparse southern Arizona border, says that the debate over border security has distracted politicians from the more insidious threats of drugs and crime.
We lost focus. We've been politically responding to the issue of immigration and undocumented, and haven't responded to the issue of crime, irrespective of documentation. So, yeah, that should be the priority for the Obama administration.
Grijalva and others also suggest that the U.S. needs to do its part to tackle its own drug and weapons problems. As the primary consumer of Mexican narcotics and provider of illicit arms to drug dealers, they say the U.S. is feeding both sides of the war. For its part, the Obama administration has yet to define a clear strategy on Mexico. Obama has pledged to continue funding a $1.4 billion Bush-era aid program aimed at combating the drug trade, and the president is expected to address the issue at a regional summit in April. In the meantime, Attorney General Holder sounds confident that the gangs can be defeated.
These cartels will be destroyed.
Now, the administration just needs a bold new plan to make it happen.